People say the number one trait of successful relationships is effective communication. And while you're thinking about your goals at the beginning of the year, you also need to be thinking about what are your goals as a couple. And that's why we're sharing the 2 things we do every single week to stay on the same page.
Hey, we're Britt and Chris Carmichael, and you're listening to the Elevated Life Podcast. Throughout the 13 years we've been together, we've never ceased in our endless quest to better ourselves.
We've studied top experts, philosophers, and gurus. After years of personal self-experimentation, we found the tools for shifting your beliefs, moving through fears, and developing a positive mindset.
If you're ready for a breakthrough, then you're in the right place, because we're here to empower you to take control of your life with simple mindset shifts that create radical transformation.
We'll be diving into topics like personal growth, health, philosophy, spirituality, relationships, success, and mindfulness.
So create some space for yourself and get comfy. It's time to become the badass you were born to be. So as we're gearing up for our Evolved Couples Retreat going down in Destin on 2/22/22, so freaking magical, Chris and I have been talking a lot about the curriculum and what we're going to be teaching. And one of the things that's really helped our relationship is getting on the same page when it comes to creating our goals as a couple. A lot of the times we focus so intently on our own personal goals that we forget to make goals with our partner. And when you have goals with your partner, you can manifest so much more magic at a rapid rate because you've got 2 people thinking about the same goal from 2 perspectives and putting extra energy into it.
Yeah, a lot of time what we do that doesn't work and that we easily get blindsided from is that it's so simple to think that everyone thinks like you do. Like that's easy to say, oh, well, everyone's just going to see it this way, so I don't need to include them. And what you find out is that if you pick the right partner, which I mean, hell, if you're not in the right relationship, like what's going on? You got to get that handled. But when you pick the right partner, what you want to be able to do is maximize their strengths. Like they have things inside their brain like for us, Britt is the most organized person I've ever seen in my life. If it can be fit into a car or into a box or into a closet or into if it's possible to fit something into some sort of space, Britt can do it. And you're like, you're looking at it saying there's no way. And I know that. And so I lean on that for Britt. And that's just one of the mazillion things that I lean on her for. And in the exact same way, she leans on me for a lot of things because I have certain skills that either she doesn't want to develop or just hasn't developed or that's not her thing. And so she lets me do it. And
but I like when you make my tea in the morning.
I know you do. I can pour that water. I mean, you're
so good.
But it's true. I think a lot of times it's easy to dismiss someone just because we're around them all the time. And you forget like, oh man, that partner that I have has some magic in them. And so when you're talking through your ideas for life, and this should be on everything. I mean, the goals that we're setting with our partner needs to be on every single category. This is not just like something small. It's from like time management stuff. It's like who you're going to be hanging out with, like what your finances look like.
Your sexy time.
Everything, literally everything. And you both have to be on the same page with that. But I will give you a caveat. And this I think is an important caveat. And that is if you have certain goals for yourself, like health goals, like maybe you're going to go to the gym or maybe you're going to tidy up how you eat or you're trying something.
Meatless Mondays.
Yeah, maybe you're doing something like that. And if your partner won't go along with it, so what? This is not something to get mad about your partner with because we're all going to be in different stages of our evolution and different things are going to be important to us at different times in our life. I'm actually a little bit older than Britt. And so like how my health vision is for my life and what I need at my age is going to be different than what I assume that she would want. So I may be a little more hardcore with certain things than she's going to be. I'm fine with that. So what? Still do you. But always keep in mind that you're doing it for the greater good of the relationship. And when you bring that energy to conversations, when you bring that energy to your brainstorm sessions, you got to be brainstorming. I mean, if your partner's not your mastermind partner, I don't even know what. When you get on the same page and you're using the sessions congruently, when you're focused together on one item, think about how much more intimate you are in every other aspect of your life because they begin to trust you.
So one of the ways that Chris and I started getting on the same page was taking nightly walks. every night we would walk for an hour. We were on a health goal that turned into an intimacy byproduct, but we were on a health goal of walking 1 hour every single night. And during those hour-long walks, spending that much time every single night together really got us past the surface level bullshit conversation. And a lot of the times it would be silent. And in the space of silence, ideas and dreams would begin to arise, and we'd share that with each other. And I didn't even know you were interested in that. Oh, you want to do that too? Well, I want to do that. Maybe we can team up and get there faster. So the more time you spend without distraction, the more you can talk about the dreams that you have. This is so important to get away and unplug from your normal routine. And for us, walking and leaving our phones at the house is still a common practice that we do on the daily.
Yeah, and if it's one of those situations where you can't walk, and it's too cold or it's too hot, or depending on where you live, you can also do the same thing in a car. But it needs to be, all the distractions need to be minimized. So you're not driving on it's not going to be super trafficky. The music's not going to be blaring. No one has their car or their phone inside the car. And so you can do the same situation. I love the walking aspect, though. I love looking forward instead of at Brit when we're deciding things like this. I don't want to be confrontational. That's not going to help me pull the best out of her or the best out of us. If someone's agitated or angry, they're not thinking through great ideas. They're thinking about being vengeful and all those kind of things that come up when someone's hurt. And so you want to make sure that you are giving the other person just as much space as you're taking up, because they have a voice and they deserve to be heard. And when you show them that, they appreciate you more. And so they say more words of affirmation. They give you more, acts of service. There's a lot more physical touch. And so many more cylinders in your relationship start firing because finally you guys have agreed on something. And then you get to see well, how does this work out? How do we achieve this as a team? How can we come together, definitely exploit the skills that we have and say, what else can we do? For us, one of the big things that happened on the walk that totally changed our life is what we decided at the time. We lived in a big place back then. We had a big place. We had multiple rooms we hadn't even been into in a while. We just had all this extra dead space. And so we were paying a lot more for a place that we weren't really utilizing. And so on that walk, one of the questions that came up was how much do you like traveling? Because we just started traveling back then. It wasn't something like we do now where we travel a lot more, especially for events. But back then we started travel a few times. And I kind of got the bug because I realized that I just loved being away with Brit. It brought so many great conversations. It brought so many good experiences, and not just going out and doing a bunch of fun things wherever we travel to, but just being together.
Outside of the comfort zone.
Yeah. And so we decided, well, why don't we do this? Why don't we get a place half the size, and the money that we're saving in not spending on rent and stuff like that, let's travel more often. And that was a conversation that happened that we would have never had that. We probably never had that talk. It just, okay, we travel when we travel. And so we set it up. We're we're going to spend the same amount of money. So why don't we get half the place and use the space and then spend that extra stuff on going places or taking our friends with us or getting our family to go along and have these trips. And I think to me, that's been one of the most rewarding things. And all that came about just asking simple questions. Hey, what do you think about traveling? Are you into this? Do you like going places? What kind of places do you like being? Is that something you really want to do often? That's how we're talking when we're setting our goals. It's something so that we can collaborate. This is a collaborative experience. It's very consensual. It's not just me trying to attack her or the opposite way.
So this is your takeaway for today's topic. Ask your partner what their goals are. What are their dreams? What do they want out of life? And when they start, if they say, I don't know, then that's a great place for you guys to start and explore together. But if they have goals, find ways in which you can support them. Maybe it's not something you're totally interested in, but there might be a different perspective that you can offer them. Like when Chris was in real estate, I have zero interest in real estate and all the jargon that he would talk about and all the things, but I would still listen. And I would offer my 2 cents of what I could make sense of what he was going through. And there were so many times where Chris got new ideas just having the conversation and explaining it to me. I feel like half the time Chris is explaining stuff to me and I'm like, are you talking to you actually? And I'm just your soundboard. And I'm pretty sure that's the case.
What's important that you mentioned is just talking about when I was in real estate, is that because Brit wasn't in the industry and because she didn't know all the ways we're going to talk about it and all, she would ask what I would consider to be the dumb questions. And the dumb questions always bring about the most insight. The best you can get if you hire a good coach, someone who's going to be great and you're going to get a lot of transformation from, they're going to ask you dumb questions. And those dumb questions are going to challenge everything you think about the topic because you're like, holy hell, I've never considered that. That's actually too simple. I can't believe that would make it work. One time, you hear about stories where sometimes teachers don't tell kids that the problem that they're solving has never been solved before. And so the kids end up figuring it out and they're like, whoa, how did this happen? It's because you didn't put that limit on it. So having a partner who doesn't know a lot about what you're into, like that's not a negative thing. Like if you guys don't have exactly similar interests, that's not necessarily negative. A lot of people think, well, if they're not interested in the same things I'm interested in, then it won't work. And that's not true because Britt is interested in a lot of things that I don't care that much about. Not that I don't support her, not that I don't listen to her, not that I don't go to the places where she does whatever that is, but I can ask her the dumb questions and it can help inspire new thoughts in her brain so that she can start to do whatever she's doing differently or in a better way. And all because I just didn't know anything. So don't be afraid of that in relationships. I always hear that come up a lot. Well, my husband's not into this woo-woo stuff, or, my wife's not into this kind of thing, or my partner's not doing this. So what? So you can still be a part of the process. You can still show up for them. This does mean that if Britt's into something that I'm not, I don't go to it.
I was going to say, you care about me, not necessarily.
Yeah, I'm going to show up. It's going to be cool no matter what because we're going to be there. Like, that's how I feel inside. Like, I'm going to show up. This is going to be awesome. And so it doesn't matter that I'm not necessarily, it's not my cup of tea. So what? I mean, we've been to like costume parties and weird kind of things like that Britt's into that I'm not super Mr. Fashion. I enjoy myself. I was
going to say, you had fun at that foray.
I'm so glad that, she coerced me into going because I wouldn't have picked that. And so it's a lot of times that's the kind of magic that you can get set up when you start talking in this way. We start making sure that you two are on the same page, that you want to be doing similar things and that you're okay with that.
And isn't that why you signed up for the partnership anyway? To be on the same page, to go after goals and dreams together, to experience intimate conversations and connection, and to feel seen, heard, and loved by that person. Like, if you're not sharing what your goals are, then what are you really talking about?
And it's okay if you haven't been in that space before. It just takes a few extra conversations with your partner a couple times a week. These aren't things that you have to be rattling on all the time. It's not how to nag the other person to death. Well, where are you at in that goal? And how come you're not doing this faster?
Why haven't you quit smoking?
Yeah, it's like you have to let the person you can't love who you think they should turn out to be. Like
say that again for those in the back.
You can't love who you think they should turn out to be. You have to love them at where they are. And if you can't do that, it's always going to be difficult. None of us are perfect. We're all just kind of rattling through this thing best as we can. And we're just trying to stumble along and figure it out along the way. So it's easy to hold people up to exceptionally high standards, even when we don't do it for ourselves. Because I think a lot of times we're just that hopeful. We could just be that hopeful. But the reality is that imperfection can be extremely beautiful. Like none of us have to show up perfectly. What you find out when you encounter someone who's in that way, it's not that much fun. It just eventually you become bored of it because there's not all those like weird situations. There's not those weird things that you can laugh at and be like, oh my God, I can't believe that just happened. Did I just say that? You don't have those fun, insightful moments. You're like, man, you just do everything perfect. Then grab my things and leave. It feels like that. So always be allowing them to just be who they are, And it doesn't mean you don't help them to change. It doesn't mean you don't inspire them to change or care about them or love them in that way and support them. But you have to find them where they are because that's where they are. Like that's the reality of all of it. And when you can come to that, when you can love that space, you'll notice that people change a lot faster because they don't feel neglected. They don't feel unheard. They don't feel unseen. They don't feel all those things that people get out of relationships for.
All right. Last thing you reminded me of. Weekly check-ins. This is something we've shared before on the podcast, but Chris and I do a weekly check-in where we kind of we call it updating the rules, where we sit down and ask each other how's it going? Are you happy with the way that we're working out, what we're eating, our sex life, who we're spending our time with, how we're doing a business, kind of just doing an assessment of all the different major categories in our life and seeing where we've been focusing our time and energy, and is there anywhere that we've been neglecting that we need to kind of reprioritize and balance out.
It's amazing what you can do with a 10-minute conversation.
With a little intention and
a little bit. Not even a lot of forethought,
Yep.
but a little bit.
Yep.
You know, enough to get you there and know, hey, we're going to do this, and this is going to be really important. And I think what we're going to talk about is going to kind of change our lives, and we're going to, you know, we're going to do all this together, and I want to do this together as much as possible. And so I want to bring you in on this. What do you think about these things? And boom, I mean, you're off to the races. It's just such an easy way to start opening up dialogue, opening up communication. Because if you haven't had a revelation in your relationship in a while, this is the year. This is the year.
It's time to come to the Evolved Couples Retreat, because the problem is you're not making space for it.
Yeah, and once you do, you'll find and discover that the love that you want has been sitting there and waiting all along. It's just that a lot of times we don't know exactly what it's taking to receive it. We don't know how we need to change our communication. We don't know how we need to approach certain situations because, you know, some people are hotheads, some people are type A's, some people are super introverts. You have to know how to navigate those waters and be able to talk to them in their own language so that when they respond back to you, it comes out of a place of love. And so you end up in this just sort of like beautiful dance all the time with each other. And sort of life and time just sort of stretches out in some of those moments, and you can just be there. And it's just, man, life can be so beautiful when you feel like this.
When you're connected, when you're inspired, when you feel loved and supported, you're unstoppable. So that's the kind of relationship that we want you to have, whether it's with yourself or with your partner. We want you to start creating and cultivating that trust in yourself, because when you can trust yourself, you can trust another.
Damn.
Oof, I love it. Well, hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. Let us know. Reach out. If you're interested in joining us, we still have a spot available. So if you're like, holy smokes, that's what I need in my life, check us out at theelevatedlifeclub.com/retreat. We're so excited to team up together. This is going to be our first, well, I guess it's not really true. We've hosted many retreats together for the Goddess Retreat. You helped teach in that. But this is really the first one geared towards couples. And I'm just so pumped because it's been a byproduct. This wasn't something we had planned for, but something that we've been asked for over and over again, which we shared about in a previous podcast, all about this Evolved Couples Retreat and how it was born. But I'm just so excited. We're almost there. We're on the countdown, not too long, and we'll be making magic with other powerful, like-minded couples.
That's what I'm excited about, because I think when you see other people who are examples of what you want to do in life, and it doesn't, like we come on here a lot of times and people ask us how to solve certain problems, and one of the things that I come back to a lot is like to change your friend group. And I don't mean that like you ditch your friends, and I don't mean that like everyone who's in your life sucks. I just mean that if you want to see something and you want to do something in your life and you have a goal for it, one of the fastest and easiest ways is to be around people that already have that. You know, if you want to be successful in a certain kind of business, if you're around people who are successful in that business, you start to realize their languaging to each other and what they do during their day is different. And think about what happens when you're around couples who are like that, where their whole life and what they're doing and what they're thinking about is dedicated to their partner and how much they can grow and evolve as a couple and do good things out in the world. When you're around a bunch of people like that and you're stuck in a house basically with them for, 4 or 5 days, what ends up happening is that you see what they do and you just go, oh my gosh, these things are simple. I can do that. Look, and you can ask them and you can integrate those things into your life so that when you leave, you have that. And I think that that's one of the best thing that happens are the people that come. The people that show up at the retreats are always my favorite part. And I think that this couples retreat, I definitely already know some of the couples. So it's like, this is going to be one of those moments where people are going to really see a lot of change very quickly.
I'm looking forward to learning from all the beautiful people, and we're just so grateful to be able to share these tools and techniques with you here on the podcast as well. If you are interested, be sure to reach out, shoot us a DM if you have any questions. We're so excited. We do plan on hosting more later in the future, but we have no definitive date. So if you're ready and your relationship is next level to evolve, this is your time to shine and commit to your relationship and put that first so that you guys can be a powerhouse couple together. Because when you do it together, who even cares about the rest, right? As long as we're just hanging out together, that's all that matters to me. I don't care what else we're doing.
See, that's a different way of being.
Love. As Chris says, true love is investing in another spiritual growth. So take time to hold space for the ones that you love, and you'll experience that love coming right back to you. Until then, peace. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Elevated Life Podcast. Want more? Join us at theelevatedlifeclub.com for mindset upgrades, lifestyle hacks, and spiritual tools to elevate your soul.
Each month features a new masterclass, meditation, yoga practice, and more to help you transform your life one step at a time.
Come join the 7 or Above Club.